Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2012 NFL Players Association press conference. It's been quite a year, to say the least, and every year we have a tough time because we always follow the halftime entertainment. And this year, obviously, Lady Gaga is going to be awesome. Oh, not Lady Gaga this year, obviously. But we appreciate everybody being here. Today's press conference is also being streamed live at ustream.tv/NFLPA. If anybody wants to tweet a link to that, that would be great. We have had a tumultuous and event-filled year in the business of football, but it is a great feeling to stand here today knowing that the conversations about our business and our union will not be about how to save them, but about the agenda we are looking to set so that we can grow them together. The NFL Players Association has always put a premium on player service. Most recently, the NFL Players Pulse Awards, we recognized and honored the contributions of players to their communities, culminating in our delivery of the Byron Whizzer-White Award to Drew Brees. We also have a prior Byron Whizzer-White Award to my left and Executive Committee member, Brian Dawkins. We're proud that members of the Executive Committee are here, and players and former players are in the audience standing with us together. To expand our legacy of service to the community, today we are proud to announce our One Team, One Community initiative that will incorporate and streamline all player-related community events and activities. Tomorrow, we'll kick off this initiative at 12:30 p.m., where NFL players will be at the St. Jude's Catholic School for a football and fitness clinic for 350 middle school students. Our community service work is not limited to supporting communities in need here in the United States, but across the world as well. The NFLPA is working on growing its partnership with international institutions and is supporting relief efforts for the terrible famine in the Horn of Africa. Let's take a moment to look at NFL players lending their support to this event.
All right side runs on 3rd and 4th down.
Our best. It's how we don't win unless we work together. It's how we play our best. It's how we survive on the field.
Now that same teamwork can save 13 million people
affected by the famine, war, and drought in the Horn of Africa.
Go to this site
and forward the facts to everyone you know. The more people who know,
the more money we can raise.
And the more money we raise,
the more people we can help.
Because saving lives doesn't take a lot.
It just takes a lot of us.
Thanks very much. One last presentation before we get to some formal business points and Q&A. As a person that has been on the front lines of the past year, we'll call it the L word, I've worked with most media members in the room. I've had the pleasure of sharing information and sharing information about our business with all of you. But there were also some lighthearted moments over the last year, and we'd like to turn your attention to the screens again for some of the greatest photos of 2011. And yes, what a year it was, to say the least. That was last year's press conference. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Live television. That was my audition for The Artist, or telling people where they could get free Subway footlongs for all negotiators. Another live television moment. And Albert Breer, of course. That was the inception moment that we had. And culminating finally in a very special day at Upshaw Place to announce the collective bargaining agreement. So, with that, I'm going to turn it over to the Executive Director of the NFL Players Association, Dee Smith, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you all. It would be an understatement to echo the thoughts that it has been a truly tremendous year. Certainly not a year that any of us would choose to go out of our way to relive again. But I know from the men that I share the dais with today, the day that we need to go back standing on the front line fighting for the players who came before us, the players who will come into the league, and the players who play in this game, every one of us would make the decision to do exactly what we did all over again. And with that, just a few remarks about where we have gone over the last few years, few long years, the horizon, what we believe are important issues as we look to the future, and where I would like to start is where we believe the Players Union must stand in broader issues outside of the business of football. Obviously, all of you are aware that we took and continue to take a very aggressive stance on the issues of right to work, the abilities of men and women who work for a living to combine in collective action in order to fight for those things that include a safe working environment, a good pension, good medical care. We believe that every man and woman who works for a living should have that ability. As a result, we took and continue to take an aggressive stand on the so-called right to work here in Indiana. That did not pass, and people asked the other day, well, how do you feel about putting all of those efforts of the National Football League Players Association behind those collective efforts of men and women who want to collectivize, who want to stand together as a team and try to make their ordinary lives better tomorrow than it is today? How do you feel that, nonetheless, that legislation passed? We're fine with it. We will continue to fight where we believe that fight should be taken. The progress of men and women who work for a living is always measured in this country in years and sometimes decades, and certainly not days. And we are proud to stand with the folks who believe that they believe in collective action, because if there is one lesson that we learned over the past 3 years, and a lesson that we have learned the hard way over the last 50 years, since guys like John Mackey led our organization, since guys like Reggie White led our organization, guys like Freeman McNeil who fought for our organization, if we do not have the ability of standing together as one, we will fail as a group of all. And that is what we will continue to do. As we look to the future of issues that are important to us as an organization and as a group of players, I believe one critical issue as we go forward will be ensuring that we represent, ensure, maintain the integrity of the men who play these games as men first, players, husbands, wives, and brothers. We have obviously been tremendously aggressive on the issue of health and safety. And at times, that issue of health and safety was threatened by the overwhelming interest of economics, cap, salary cap, number of games played, what happens in the offseason, who gets traded. Our fundamental focus will always have to remain on those men who play this game as men first and the families who support them. So have we arrived at what we would consider to be nirvana in the state of health and safety for the players, health and safety for former players? The answer is no. Are we going to continue to be aggressive about those issues as they come up? Yes. The collective bargaining agreement contains this year for the first time an accountability provision that Sean Morey came up with, which is designed to do one thing, to ensure that as medical care is delivered to our players, that medical care abides by every federal, state, local, professional, and ethical standard. The good news is that is now codified in the collective bargaining agreement. The surprising news is it took until 2011 for it to happen. There are some who would then look back and say that we have not done a good job over the past 30 years, and I would tell you that that's wrong. The right answer is that we almost must strive to continually try to do a better job. So as we look to issues of health and safety, whether it be return to play guidelines, whether it relates to the way in which players are treated by their medical professionals as we confront an issue of painkillers and the use of painkillers not only on game days and practice days, but how that issue of using pain-killing drugs continues to be an issue for our players and our men and their families long after football is over. As we look at issues of how to improve access to health care for former players, there will never be a day when this union makes a decision that we've arrived. And I think that's the good news. The last thing that I want to close with is, over the last 2.5 years, the greatest pleasure from this job has been serving with these men. I am not sure in my life I will ever have an opportunity to be surrounded by people that I respect as much, people who sacrificed as much, and people who had the vision and love for their current and former players to ensure that this union not only survives, but as a group of individuals joined together, that we have the ability to protect and to serve everyone who comes in connection with this game from the standpoint of players. And it is with a tremendously heavy heart that I look at some of these men and know that in March they will rotate off of this executive committee. So to Sean, I just want to say thank you for your perseverance. There isn't a day when Sean hasn't certainly driven us abundantly crazy with his passion and his fervor for what is right. But I know with a certainty that the strides we have been able to make in the field of traumatic brain injury from 2009 and to the present would not and could not have been done without you. And from now until your dying day, I hope that every member of your family, every member of the NFL community, for as long as football is played, will understand and appreciate how you changed the game. Because today we have colleges and youth football doing things differently because of your vision, and that's tremendous. To Kevin Mawai, everyone likes to believe that the collective bargaining agreement and the fight over a fair deal began when we decertified in March of last year. For Kevin, for T. Rich, for Brian, who hopefully is going nowhere, and to other members who were on that executive committee who are no longer with us, I cannot imagine the struggle and the pain with which you dealt with the fact that your leader of 26 years was gone. And carrying this union on your strong shoulders is the only reason why we were able to get not only a deal done, but the reason that we were able to survive as a group, as a team of people working together. For T. Rich, who has played for 47 years in the National Football League, there are few people who can lead and inspire in the way that you have. And we kid you a tremendous amount about your longevity, but that is rooted in your singular ability to persevere. And throughout the negotiations, you were the rock. And I know that today, people like Tony Richardson stand alongside of people like John Mackey. They stand alongside of guys like Freeman McNeil because they had the vision and perseverance to fight on. So what I would like to do for those men who have fought the way that they fought, I'm going to give an opportunity for them to talk about what it has meant over the last few years as a group of players. And on behalf of the players of the National Football League, the members of the executive committee who are going to continue the fight, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. And for the sake of argument, I'm going to choose Sean first, just to say a few words. I love you.
I bumped in last night to Sylvia Mackey, and I hadn't had the opportunity yet to express my condolences for John's passing, and I just wanted to recognize him and the strength and the perseverance and the integrity that he showed at a time when the league was growing and the business was growing, and the players that built this game. We always say, Dee says, that we're standing on the shoulders of giants, and I feel like every giant that came into the league and contributed to the league and made this game what it is, not just the player, but the owners that sacrificed and gave. I mean, this game was built by strong men, and those men had very strong wives who were willing and able to allow them to sacrifice things to build this game and this business. And it's an honor to have been able to represent John addressing this issue, making sure that we work together to really just try to look at a very difficult issue and try to find creative solutions without holding, without pointing the finger, but trying to make sure that we do our best to reset the healthcare model in the NFL to address the health, safety, and welfare of every active, future, transitioning, and former player, and try to address their mental, physical, neurological, and financial health. And I think that as a group, this executive committee has been lock and step and steadfast in our commitment to working with the league, with our players and our constituents, and to try to address every single issue with the best intentions and the most tireless effort to try to get everything right. And I commend the NFL for their courage and their ability to address this issue and work with players to help us try to make the game safer for future generations, and to make sure that the former players that are out there that may be affected and are struggling have help, intervention, care, treatment. I think we have an amazing opportunity to come together and represent exactly what the Shield represents, which is integrity, character, and principle. And that's what these players play for. That's what I play for. That's what I represented. And to be able to be up here and stand up here, especially as a guy that probably should have never made it in the NFL, and to have lasted 10 years, I feel such an amazing amount of pride to be able to stand next to a Jeff Saturday, to Dominique Foxworth, to Scott Fujita, to Kevin Y as our leader, and all the gentlemen that are on this committee that have the self-awareness, the civic duty, the veteran leadership, the self-awareness, and to be able to address very difficult issues, and to do the right thing, do right by our players. I think our NFLPA staff has done an amazing job throughout the entire negotiations. I want to thank them, and I think, at the end of the day, the cruelest burden of leadership is that you can't help everyone, but you help as many as you can. And at the end of the day, you deserve to be able to know in your heart of hearts that you did everything possible with the best intentions to address issues and to do them fairly, rightly, and for the best interest of the players. And I feel like all of us have done that. And I really take my hats off to the league, to the union, and hopefully we'll continue this process and try to keep working towards making things better for every active and future and transitioning and former player. So thank you.
Just kind of echoing some of the things that Sean talked about. I guess for me personally, it's it's been a long journey. Back on the practice squad in 1994, and I guess for me as a player, my dad was a military man, so everything I've always known is service. And so, our motto is always past, present, and future. And when I came to Kansas City in 1995, I had a guy by the name of James Hasty. He pulled me aside and he said, "Look, there's a lot of things that's going to happen to you in this game, but I want to try to teach you and show you the way." And so he started telling me about the Players Association. And so for me, it's always been my passion over the years, and it's still going to, be that way, to take a young man and, teach him about his 401k. Take a young man and tell him, hey, you know what? If you finish your undergraduate degree, how about you go back to grad school? Or how about you do an internship? So that's always been my mission. I never had an agenda. My main goal was just to help people. Like I said, my dad was a military man, a Vietnam veteran. My sister is currently serving. So for me personally, to be able to serve with these gentlemen on both to my left and to my right, and obviously our staff and everyone else, that was my only goal. So for me to be fortunate to, to play in Pro Bowls and do those type of things, when I look back on my career, leaving a legacy means that obviously we're standing on the shoulders of the men, like Nolan, Belzer, all these guys, Jason, all these guys that have paved the way, and obviously, John Mackey. So for me, leaving a legacy is taking where they left us and taking it to another level. And so I know as I transition and walk away from this game, the guys who are coming after me, they're in good hands. We have labor peace, and obviously it was a long road. And like Dee said, it didn't start when we had to make some tough decisions a few years ago. It started a long time ago. We knew this fight was going to be tough. But I think at the end of the day, we got a great deal, and it's a deal that's going to benefit our game for a long period of time. And so for me to be able to walk away and know that football is going to be great for a long time, and I had a chance to serve with these men, some tireless hours and a lot of funny stories, but it was a good time. So obviously I'm not a man of many words. I just want to say, thank all you guys, and definitely thank the wives for lending these gentlemen to my left and to my right. And so that's all I have to say. God bless you.
Man, it's been a long 4 years. I remember the first year I stood up here as a president, Gene Upshaw passed away. I'd just flown in from Washington, D.C., facing a subcommittee on Capitol Hill, bringing into question the integrity of the search process that we were going through at that time. We had some difficult battles to deal with, had some difficult decisions to make. And at the time, I didn't think that I was worthy of the position of president of the National Football League Players Association. There's times throughout this negotiation over the last several years, the last couple of years, that I still felt that way. And even today, I stand before you guys on my way out, and I look at the guys that I've worked with, and there's still a part of me that says that I had no reason being here in the beginning. And I always said that my greatest accomplishment at this podium would be to walk away from the game knowing that I did things just as great off the field as I did on them. And I stand here today to say that I did that. The players that come in today will experience an NFL like none of it before. There's labor peace for the next 10 years. The leadership that will take place on the dais in March will have labor peace. They will never have to deal with issues that this committee or myself have had to deal with in the past. And it's a testament not just to myself, but to Dee and to the rest of the executive committee members. When one decides to become a leader, they need to ask themselves if they do it out of selfish motivation and personal gain, or to make those around them better than they are. And I never took this role to be the president so I can have another name or another tag on my resume. I took the position because I felt like that was my duty and my responsibility to serve the players of the NFL. And no matter what, when I walk away in March, I will say that I did it the right way. My actions were above reproach. Nobody ever can question my integrity. They can't say I did it for personal gain, and they can never say I did it for the fame. I walk away from the game happy. I walk away from this position joyful. And I was telling Dee earlier that I go from helping negotiate this multi-billion-dollar deal to getting an email from a 7th grade teacher wanting to know if she has to cover Demerit Hall on Saturday or not. Because I'm Associate Dean of Students at Montgomery Bell Academy in Nashville, Tennessee. I went from helping guys garner financial success for the next several years to helping a crop of young men come up and understand what it is to be men. My experiences in the NFL have allowed me the respect and the admiration that you would hope young men would give you. And hopefully when they look back on their days on the Hill at Montgomery Bell, they'll be able to say the same thing about me that the guys that I served in the NFL have said, that he did it for us and not for himself. I got to give a great deal of thanks to my wife, who's not here today. The Monday morning text messages to her to saying, hey, I'm on a plane at 3 o'clock this afternoon. I don't know when I'll be back. To my kids who want to know, why do you got to go to another meeting and make sure you bring back a swag bag for me. I got to give thanks to our regional directors, our player advocates, particularly Jason Belzer. He was my rock. And a guy that understands the position I'm in, a second-generation NFL player, and a guy that I came to trust with everything. So I thank you. I look along the wall, I see Ben Nutt over here. He was on the short list as a candidate for the executive director position. Went through the interview process, made it all the way down to the end. And Ben, I'm just happy you didn't have to go through what we did. So, and I'm sure Dee's happy that that he got the position, but it wasn't a knock on who you were or your character. It was the direction that the leadership felt that we needed to go. But I thank you for your understanding. I thank you for still being involved. Nolan Harrison, former past president. Clark Gaines, he's like my dad in the NFLPA. And there's a number of other people I can go on and on about. Scotty Graham, you need a phone call or you need to make a call to a player who seems untouchable. The guy's got him on speed dial. You need a quote from Brett Favre or Tom Brady or whoever. He's the guy to go to, just so you guys know. George Atala, handling the media. And let's be honest here, there's some of you out there I don't like. Just the way it is. But you have a job to do. And I think for the most part, you've handled it with professionalism. And I hope that I helped you do that job. So come March, when the next guy steps on this podium and takes over, I pray that he'll be just as great a leader as any of these guys up here. I'll support him and I'll back him in whatever way. And I thank Dee for making my job easy. He was the guy that we all felt was the right guy, and he did the right job. So with that, I thank you guys. And you want to find me, I'll be coaching the Big Red at NBA. Thank you.
I don't know how we follow that up, but we'll open it up to questions from the floor at this point. All right. No questions? Eric?
This is Rick Morris. David Cornwell has sent out a memo to, I'm sure you're aware of it, to other agents questioning some of your methods. Do you have a response to it? Have you seen a copy of it? And what just what's your take?
You know, the great thing about this job is there isn't a day that somebody wants to take a shot. And you know what? The reality of it is everyone's entitled to their opinion, but no one is entitled to their own facts. So when it comes to what is truth and what is not, I pick truth.
Can I just say something on that regards? David Cornwell has done some great things for our players in the NFL. For the guys that have come into trouble, he's done an awesome job representing them and helping them out. During the search process 4 years ago, our leadership chose three candidates to take to Hawaii to choose from. He was not one of them. This is the same guy that inserted himself back into the process after the leadership of this union decided that he was not the guy to lead us. And to me and the other executive committee members that were on that board at that time, felt highly disrespected. We felt like our opinion was of no value to him. And we felt like he did the players in the NFL a disservice by re-injecting himself into a process that was taking place. Now, we go through due process, and it's a democratic process in March as far as the executive committee is concerned and the executive director. And I just need to be very clear that in the past, he was not chosen because of the leadership of this union. And I hope that he would understand that. And for him, it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback. When you don't fight the fight that we fought over the last 2.5 years and then pick it apart when it's done, it does a disservice to the leadership of this board, a disservice to the leadership of the National Football League, and a disservice to the players that serve the other players. But again, like Dee said, the facts are facts. And it's just unfortunate when you read the first line of his letter that the facts were automatically wrong.
Sylvia.
Yes, that's Kristen. Dee, I appreciate so much everything you've done, and I really like the fact of what you just said about the truth and how you want the truth out. And I'm hoping that there's one thing that's not the truth, because if it's not the truth, then I don't even have to ask the next question, which is, and I wanted to get all my wording right, why was it decided that the beneficiaries of those legends who passed away after August 4th, 2011, do deserve the legacy fund and the pension increase, but the beneficiaries of the loved ones, of the legends, the beloved legends who passed away before August 4th, 2011, do not deserve the increase? What did we do wrong?
Sylvia, first, thank you for your question. The day I met you, I told you that if the players of this National Football League didn't believe in those people who built this league, if they didn't want to support them, then I didn't want to be their leader. So when it came time for us to think about what we could do to ensure that we bettered the lives of people who played this game before us, it was the players' idea to come up with the legacy fund, not the league's. When we made increases in the pension benefit in 1993 from the pension fund that was created, that increase is made with player money, not NFL money. When we decided that it was important for the legacy fund that teams for the first time contribute to the pensions of former players, it was the men on this dais and the former players who made the decision that we were going to fight for that $320 million from the teams that have done nothing but grow and become more profitable based upon the work and the sacrifice of all the players who came before us. So when you look at all of the increases into the pension fund, and one thing I should add about the legacy fund, I'm pretty sure that there was no $620 million that was more debated, fought over, whether it was the folks over at the NFL alumni who wanted to weigh in after the fact, or people who didn't want to help us build it who wanted to weigh in. All we did was fight over how that money was going to be allocated. Every benefit that has gone to former players has always been established so that the survivors of that new benefit got that benefit. That's the way it's always been. The legacy benefit is a new benefit. A new benefit. So the $28 million that that it would take to go back and compensate for the survivors of those players who departed before the legacy fund was created, if the National Football League wants to kick in an additional $28 million, fantastic. If people want to get together and figure out whether we should include that $28 million into the $620 million of the legacy fund, that's fine. But the one thing that I have to say with all due respect that you're wrong about, D. Smith and nobody on this dais made a decision to not include somebody. No, it is a new benefit. So when you have a new benefit, all of the survivors of the people who would be eligible to get the legacy fund for the new benefit will get those survivor benefits. So to say that we, National Football League, made a decision to exclude Sylvia Mackey or anybody similarly situated, I hope you know that none of us would have fought so hard and made a decision that we were going to purposely exclude someone. We created probably one of the most interesting and funded benefits that we have ever done in the National Football League. When I talked about the legacy fund years ago and people said that you will never be able, ever, be able to get teams to contribute to pensions. That's what you heard, those same conversations. And that we were just simply trying to fool people. The people who fought for that benefit would never purposefully exclude anyone. We created a new benefit, and we're proud of it.
Other questions? Can you, yeah, we've got a mic. If you can share your name and outlet, please.
AJ Perez, FoxSports.com. Where does the HGH test stand at this point, and what's the next step in the process?
The HGH test, as we've said before, is a collectively bargained part of the drug plan. Do conversations continue as we work towards a plan that not only provides tests to maintain the integrity of the sport, but also protects and serves fundamental due process rights? Those talks continue. But as we have said before, we are going to continue to fight and ensure that due process is something that is not thrown away at the expense of just having a test. And with all due respect from the folks at WADA who have told us that the standard against which our players will be measured is really none of our business and shouldn't concern us, how can it not be our business? And it seems to me that and to the players, that if we are able to get to a system that is fully transparent, that is the best answer to the solution. If we are unable to get to a system that is fully transparent, and nonetheless we can come up with ways in order to ensure a fair test that protects the due process rights, that's what we will do. But no one will bully us into a test. No one will force the players to accept something that's unfair. How could we? How could we?
One more thing, since we're answering questions about water, you mentioned you can pick up Dick Pound's book at Amazon.com. There's a cover for it for you guys.
As far as would you be willing for a population study of NFL players if that's the holdup? Would the PA be up for funding something like that?
Well, since we proposed it, yes.
Jim Trotter, Sports Illustrated. I wanted to ask you guys, St. Louis Rams ownership has talked about playing 3 games over in London consecutive years. And I wonder if this is something that the Players Association is supportive of, or what's the union's feeling on this?
Jim, we haven't been presented with a proposal to play that many games. Obviously, it raises some significant concerns about the health and safety of the players, given the transportation, given the jet lag. Look, one interesting, or interesting is the wrong word, one significant issue for our players is the length of time they have to travel in planes before and after games. And all of those issues are issues that we believe are going to have to be considered if that's what the proposal is. And we believe that issues like that are appropriate issues to be considered between the National Football League and the Players Union.
So at this point, there's been no discussion between the league and the union about that?
Not to this time. Okay. Not at this time, sorry.
Mark?
Mark Maskey from the Washington Post. You obviously had significant opposition to an 18-game season during the labor negotiations. The league has said that they would like to revisit that issue at some point. Do you see any circumstances that would lead you to consider that at any time?
You know, like anything else, I think the lesson from the, I'll say the L word, the lockout and the labor fight was that it is important to consider everything. There are issues that we obviously feel are tremendously important, and the health and safety of our players was something that early on we said was a non-negotiable issue, and that will remain so. So to the extent that we have conversations about where games are going to be played, whether here or overseas, whether there's issues of the prescription of pain-killing medication, whether adding additional games, all of those issues are going to be considered in the paradigm of what's in the best health and safety interest of the players. And that not only means for that current year, but it also means what we now know are the critical issues of wear, tear, physical debilitation, and post-career pain and suffering. So there isn't a day where this union is going to stop insisting on the zero-sum nature of health and safety.
Jason Cole.
Jason Cole, Yahoo Sports. D, since the junior rule came about, and I think it's 2006, there seems to be, or appears to be, a proliferation of financial advisors, runners, other sort of intermediaries who are able to get to players at the college level when agents can't. Is there any way of regulating those types of people and their contact?
As you know, we held a group meeting with a number of agents to discuss ways in which we can improve the system of services being provided to our players, maintaining the integrity of the game, but also protecting our players from those people who do not have their best interest in mind. There's a number of issues that we are going to be considering as a union in March to address all three of those issues. One of those issues is the one that you raised. So we're not going to go into much detail today about those things until we talk about them internally. But that is an issue that I believe is worth addressing, as is, to be blunt with you, issues of the NCAA, the manner in which our young men matriculate through a system of college football. Pleased to not only have a great friend in the audience, but a tremendous author in Taylor Branch. If any member has not read his piece in The Atlantic about the NCAA and the college football system in particular, you've missed one of the great pieces of journalism in the last 5 or 6 years. So as problems become aware, I think it's our duty and indeed our obligation to address them.
Got time for one more, if there are any. Go ahead.
Yeah, Wayne LaBelle, Hawaii Sports Media.
Take me with you.
Yeah, Wayne.
You got it, and that's what I'm asking about the Pro Bowl, whether or not you have any say in whether the Pro Bowl is going to stay in Honolulu or not. They were supposed to have discussions, but they didn't have them this last week. And the players always express how much they love it. Fans love it over there, I'm sure. Everyone in this room would like to go over there. We'd like to have a Super Bowl over there if the Players Union could get together and let's build a stadium.
Wow.
We've got members of the NFL in the audience.
Yes.
Is there a stadium construction plan for Hawaii at some
Paul
point?
Hicks, anyone? Paul Hicks, please come up front. Oh, yeah. You know, look, we just got done with a 10-year deal. The players building a stadium in Hawaii, I can promise you, did not come up. Not without my personal dedication to the issue, along with a small beach house in Maui. You know, look, the issue of the Pro Bowl, we are well aware of how much our players love your beautiful state, and the issues surrounding the Pro Bowl, the economics of the issue, fan attendance at the issue. You know, I believe the right thing to do is to do what we have always done, look and study and evaluate. And as a person who went through with these guys 3 years of a dust-up with the National Football League, where we certainly didn't agree on everything and probably won't agree on everything in the near future, are there issues that I think that we can sit down together and talk through and try to reach solutions that are good for both us, the NFL, fans, and people of the great state? Yes. So I think that's what our obligation should be, and that's what we're going to do.
To members of the media on your way out, I think that's the last question we're going to have time for. Make sure you pick up your free agent packets and agent player packets, as we offer every single year. And with that, we appreciate everybody's time and joining us, and it concludes our press conference. Thank you.
Thank you.